Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Did you know 1 in 5 young people say they don't think their lives are worth living?
Oh, look. Another glorious morning. Makes me sick.
That's 2 million 16 to 25 year olds in this country, a rate that has doubled in a mere decade.
Prepare for trouble.
Make it double.
This comes from a YouGov survey for the Prince's Trust, a charity for helping young people. What about those of us over the age of 25 who still consider ourselves young?
Work till I'm half dead and I hear people saying she's getting old.
Well, Barna Group and World Vision found that the UK has the second most pessimistic millennials anywhere in the world. The proportion of young people optimistic about the future between the age of 25 and 35 is lower here than in Nigeria. Lower, in fact, than millennials in all 38 countries surveyed, except South Korea.
Don't pay any attention to me. Nobody ever does.
That's right. A staggering 3 in 4 British under 35 surveyed don't feel optimistic about the future. Taking these studies at face value, I estimate there are north of 9 million young adults in the UK living under a cloud of dire pessimism. Sensationally, we have 3 times more young people in the UK feeling gloomy than there were before 2010. That is 9 million adults living in a state of what father of sociology, Emil Durkheim, called anomie.
Oh my god, we're gonna hang.
If this isn't shocking enough for you, then I have a twist. Both of these studies I've just cited were conducted shortly before the pandemic, which undoubtedly would have made matters worse.
You must stay at home.
You have to stand in a drippy pipe with jagged edges, and broken glass and nails sticking out.
Festering ball of pus.
Does this surprise you? Do you believe 3/4 of young people are mood hoovers? Let me know in the comments. Unfortunately, before things get better, I'm going to make things worse by delivering some more gloomy statistics for you. Over the last decade, the number of prescriptions for antidepressants has doubled. Last year, doctors handed out 15 million antidepressants to people under the age of 35. That's almost the same number of antidepressants as there are adults of our age group in this country. Deaths of despair, that is, death from drug overdose, alcohol, or suicide, are up by almost 25% over the last decade. Last year, drugs killed a record 5,900 people in Britain. A similar number died from suicide in the UK last year as well, including one of my friends. This is really scary, and it shows that there's a big problem with people being unhappy, and it boggles my mind, but doesn't unfortunately surprise me. The only thing that does surprise me is the continuing conspiracy of silence around it. A conspiracy of silence around endemic misery in prosperous, technologically advanced countries. Countries which have the best healthcare, the best living standards, and the best opportunities for people our age ever in history. Quality of life is objectively better now for young people than ever before in human history. How, therefore, is rapidly rising rates of misery that we are seeing like this even possible?
Because nobody admits anything they've done!
Speaking as someone on that Gen Z and millennial border, I have gone through the most pivotal years of my life, so has practically everyone around me, during this apparent decade of doom. Our years in school and in further education, our ventures into the labour market and the foundational years of our careers have all coincided with this decade of youthful despair. For me, anecdotally, the findings feel, unfortunately, like they're right. At the start of the last decade, I was living on a council estate, below the poverty line, struggling to eat while finishing my A-levels. I am a social climber, and it does feel like my privileged years are more miserable now than the ones I had on my council estate growing up.
It's the eggs! They're not organic!
Peers I had a decade ago grappling with austerity were more optimistic than the peers I have now. I have established a career, and socialising with people who, like me, seem to be living comfortably and rather well. Peers on comfortable incomes, living independently in some of the most prosperous cities in the world. Yet, you don't have to scratch far below the surface to understand that for many of us, as a generation, we aren't very well at all.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States. President Obama
despite being more comfortable. Any astute observer can see people of my age group share in this sense of existential destitution, this sense of me. An existential destitution that my experience tells me has little regard for social class or income divides.
Hello, my name is Louise. I'm 24 years old, and I'm here. I'm here because I don't have a future.
This shit is really real. Forget the climate, forget viruses, and forget terror threats. This is the number one existential problem Western civilization faces right now. Chronic existential despair, existential collapse. This epidemic of misery is the elephant in the room that pervades our perception of every other challenge we face. If we are increasingly pessimistic about our own lives, then we are probably more pessimistic about the planet's too. If we catastrophize our own lives, we are more likely to catastrophize the risk of, say, novel viruses as well, irregardless of objective reality. It makes us more vulnerable then to supporting measures to combat perceived catastrophes which manifest more misery on the very people most at the effect of cultural shifts over the last decade. Projecting our personal pessimism onto objective facts doesn't change objective reality. Projecting does, though, impact our approach to overcoming the challenges of our times. I say, solving existential plight is the most important step we can take to solving our external problems. This will do more to solve the real issues rather than pass very real laws and restrictions on human behaviour to combat constructed catastrophes, which make the very real problems that much more challenging for yourself and for the most vulnerable in society. So, let's have a different, deeper conversation about why young people are so unhappy. Let's begin to talk about what you need to do to buck this terrible trend of growing despair. From experience and from research, I say there are 5 main reasons why my millennial and Gen Z people are so unhappy. On my channel, we are going to explore these 5 main reasons over the course of the next few videos. Videos in which we will make sense of why this is happening, why 2 generations, Gen Z and Millennials, got progressively unhappier as the last decade rolled on. The 5 reasons that 3 years into this next decade, we still see no signs that chronic rates of misery are coming down. 5 things we need to fix as we emerge from a global financial crash, Brexit, and a decade of economic stagnation. As we emerge from a pandemic and 2 years of crippling lockdown restrictions, as we enter a time of growing government interventions in our lives.
Well, it's been...
But for now, over to you. Why do you think us young people are more miserable now than young people were a decade ago? Is it because we're more entitled or ungrateful? Is it because of events that have happened? Do you even agree that there's a problem at all? Am I way overblowing this? Perhaps you're one of the people backing this trend of despair. What do you think you've got right that perhaps other people aren't doing? If you are curious about why young people are so miserable, if you are interested in exploring solutions to this existential plight of young people, then subscribe to my channel and like this video. My channel is for different, deeper conversations about the topics that really matter. Topics like this. Conversations that aren't happening in the mainstream media. Liking this video and subscribing to my channel lets me know whether I am, in fact, onto something. I take it as a tacit affirmation that we demand something more optimistic and more constructive. Something that will help us turn the tide and get our lives back on track. Something that can help us overcome the challenges of our time and buck the trend of growing despair. Thank you for watching and can't wait to carry on this different, deeper conversation in my next video. 5 reasons why us Gen Z and millennial folk are so unhappy, and what we can do to buck this trend of growing despair. See you next time, and don't forget to subscribe.